What is up, guys? Pixels to Life here, and we are on episode 7 of Ctrl+Z, the best design cast to listen to while you design. Wow, could I butcher that anymore? We're going to go again.
Are you sure we're on 7?
We are on 7. We did 6 this morning. That's why you're confused, I think.
Yeah, because I wasn't there. He forgot, because, I wasn't there. That's
Yeah,
what it
because he
was.
was up at 7 o'clock. Holy smokes.
He was up at 6, too, right? Jeez.
You're gonna get it, Josh.
We're technically on 8, but Evan lost the other
cucumbers off
episode.
his eyes. The long facial mask.
We're,
The
we're,
change
techni-
is naughty.
we're technically on 8, but Evan lost 4.
Oh.
Don't come after me.
Evan's like, you want to know something? I'm going to strangle you after this.
Like, all right, I'm leaving.
I took 4 and ripped it to shreds. That was it.
And then put it in a tin can.
The dumpster episode. Tripping over the table.
Alright, here we're gonna go again. What is up, guys? Pixels to Life here, and we are on episode 7 of Ctrl+Z, the best cast to listen to while you design. We are welcoming back Josh. We can't get enough of him.
We can't get rid of him.
Can't get rid of him.
I just played him for the last week. Just waiting for someone to join back.
Somebody leaked the link. I don't know, but. But also we welcome for the first time Travis from GamerGFX.
Hello.
So
Hi, Travis.
Travis, real quick before we get started, just kind of let those people that don't know you know a little bit about what you do, and even talk a little bit about GamerGFX if you'd like.
Sure, yeah. So as you said, my name's Travis. I'm the founder and lead designer of GamerGFX. We're actually about to hit our 1-year anniversary, which is exciting, and we basically do what most of you guys do. We provide, graphic design for the gaming scene. And outside of GamerGFX, I work full-time at a design agency, doing everything from like logos, website design, stuff like that. And on top of that, full-time student, about to get a bachelor's degree in web design, and married and have a 14-month-old daughter who's going to be a graphic designer one day.
We're further alienating Zach as the single person on the show.
It's all right, man.
I don't envy you in some situations.
I don't really know what to say right now, man.
My wife's gonna watch this and beat the crap out of me.
Love you, Zach.
So what's on the agenda, Nick?
Well, you know me and agendas, that doesn't really work out too well.
Did you post-it note that you just wrote real quick before?
What's that?
Little post-it note that you wrote down what we need to talk about?
Yeah, just jotting down ideas and things like that.
Oh.
So, we were talking a little bit earlier about clients and acquisition of clients and things like that. And I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion on it. We had talked in the previous episode with Laurent about this, but I kind of wanted to get your guys' view on it real quick about the best way when you're first starting out to get new clients on board, and also from a corporate, like a company sort of format like GamerGFX, how you guys do client acquisition.
Do you mean like how do we go about trying to expand and get new clients?
That and also client, how you decide which clients to take on.
Oh, well, I guess that depends on the email that first comes in. The ones that are like all in caps with misspellings, we usually try to avoid, but we try to answer those. But
My keyboard is broken.
yeah,
I
yeah.
apologize.
What is up? I'm looking for a logos But I think in the very beginning when we first started a year ago, the biggest thing was doing nothing but kind of free stuff for people. That's sort of a good way to get yourself out there and get your name out there. And then after a while, at this point, to be honest, we don't do much advertising outside of like Twitter or anything like that. But we just seem to get emails now. I think it's just word of mouth at this point.
Yeah, that's a good thing about whenever we were discussing it earlier, we actually were talking about how most of us are kind of at the point where the clients kind of just come to us through word of mouth, and so that's why we kind of posed the question about whenever you're first starting out, how did you get the clients to come in initially?
Yeah, I think it's that good saying that everyone says, it's who you know. And I had met with the guys that were on Merkin. So I was talking to Fizzerp. I think he was on Skype or something. And I had happened to play with him for a little bit, and then he just started chatting and was like, hey, you do graphic design? I was like, yeah. And he said, can you do me a logo? And that's sort of where it started. So I did it for free. And from there, it just exploded because he posted it and was like, oh, check this out. And then it was just a couple other smaller ones here and there that sort of helped, and then, like I said, after a few months, it just starts to happen automatically. People just start emailing you, and from there, it's just a matter of, building trust with your bigger clients. I have a few clients that I do work for multiple times a month, which I'm sure you guys do too, and you build that trust and loyalty, and that's important. You be consistent, you're always on time with your designs. You don't decrease your quality based on your last project, and always trying to give them new stuff to check out. So I think that's big too. Once you have a good client and they're a good client and they pay you on time and you have a good connection, it's important to keep that because, that's really going to get you more business too.
What do you think, Zach?
He said it all. I agree. I shake my head all the time. When I first started out, I don't really. Logo-wise, it's not really my. I don't really work for the big team, team aspect of things. I kind of do. I guess I do sometimes. It really just kind of depends. But one of the biggest things is word of mouth, man. It kind of brings us to not the last show, the show prior to that. We were talking about, doing work for Shoutouts in return. And, that's one of the things I have to say that, if you do just, take on something where, it is a free client, anything, if one guy says, oh, check out this guy, and then, you do work for that client, and then it just kind of keeps moving on and on and on, kind of like a telephone type situation. And that's really the biggest thing is you'll get more and more clients through word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you said that because I didn't mention that. That is exactly what we did in the beginning. And when I say we, it was pretty much just me. But when I started. But yeah, that was definitely one of the payment transfers was instead of you paying me money, give me 2 or 3 shout-outs, and that is huge. We did that kind of recently. We did a thing for Keemstar. And I pretty much was like, hey, we'll do this real quick, but you need to give us a couple shout-outs. And he did that, and you definitely see the results from those things, so that's good.
Yep, sometimes that works out. Like we were talking a couple episodes back about the value of shout-outs and that kind of thing. And, we kind of had a consensus that that they're okay to do as long as you're careful about valuing your time and making sure that it's actually going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the same thing you have to think about when people want to get sponsorships,
Yeah.
People ask for sponsorships, as you guys know, every day, and it's like the people that are really worth sponsoring aren't the ones that are going to approach you for a sponsorship in most cases. But if you're just starting out, then I don't think it's a big deal,
Yeah.
But putting in hours and hours and hours of work for, maybe 1 or 2 extra clients just isn't worth it.
Anything to add, Josh?
Well, there's a lot of power in knowing where they live because you can then obviously just go pest to their house or something like that. So that's one way to do it. So don't be afraid to stalk. I mean, be afraid to throw it out there. No, I mean it's pretty much the same sort of thing. Like especially for me, especially if you're just getting started. Like for me, I think my first client was a good friend of mine. He saw some of the stuff I did and said I'd like to get something. So we sorted out a price and did a little commission for him, and then that then led maybe a month or two later to some more work, where it got to the point where my work was starting to steamroll. Where every time I would do a job, I'd get two more. So it generally it will continue to snowball to the point where you are, where I'm at now, where I just I can't take any more work on. But to get to that point, there is a little bit of a lead up, and there's a few things you can do because you want to start making money from what you do. But and a lot of people think that you have to have these clients to make money. It's not exactly true. There is actually ways of. The one thing I would say, if you want to start securing clients, is you've got to have something to show them. You can't. No one goes to someone and says, "Hey, I want to do this for you. Hey, I'm an artist. Hey, I'm an animator. Hey, I'm a blah blah blah." And I want to do some work for you, whatever. And the first thing they'll say is, "Show me some examples." And if you don't have any examples, then obviously you've got nothing to show them. So your work, make your work speak for itself. So you've got to start generating a portfolio. So you've got to actually start doing some work, and whether that is for some shout outs or the other way, which I did, is I did originally posters. I used to sell a lot of posters. I used to do the convention scene, get your name out there and stuff like that. I had booths at conventions where I would sell posters and stuff like that. And they are expensive to get into, but it is definitely worth it. That's how I basically got started with everything. So you can be doing this work and producing this portfolio, and it may not actually be client work, but you can still draw revenue from it, because if you're creating posters or you're creating stickers or you're creating these things that you can then sell on, it is the way of making a little bit of money back, but also still building that portfolio. And then a client will come along, and then a client will come along, and then a client will come along, sort of thing. And I mean, don't undervalue your initial clients as well. Just say, oh, I'm not getting paid. Oh, I'm only getting paid this much money, so I'm only going to do this much work. And whilst that becomes the case, like later on, and absolutely you need to set a time. Your time needs to have a price to it. These initial client jobs are going to be huge, and especially things which may be shout-out related or stuff like that. So don't be afraid to go the extra mile on stuff like that. There's been jobs that I've killed time on, like way extended the budget, but that's come back to benefit me later on. So I mean, that's what I would say as well. Just grow your portfolio and get your name out there in whichever way you can. I mean, you guys are saying YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all that thing's great, but also in real life. Mm-hmm. Go to these conventions and all that sort of stuff, and just anything you can do. In this game, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Like, I wouldn't be here today without the people that I know. That's all. That's all it is. It's the connections you make. It really is.
Yeah, and I think what's important to mention is everything that you do when you're starting out is an investment in yourself for the future. So if you're going to be a graphic designer that's going to be successful in the community, you got to invest that time to develop your branding. You got to invest that time to build your portfolio, whether it's for clients, for shout-outs, because the general consensus is that word of mouth is going to be your most powerful tool in being successful. So if you're not doing work for other people, I mean, doing design stuff to build your portfolio, that is a great thing to do. I agree with that, but also you need to balance that out with doing work for others, so that you can start generating that word of mouth. And I think a consensus among everybody, except for maybe Evan, I can't remember if he said this or not, but the general consensus seems to be we started out, we were doing the work for the shout outs and the word of mouth, and then along came what I would call a big fish. You know, the guys who have that following, that their word of mouth is really going to give you some footing, and then those guys bring bigger guys or equal guys, and then under them are lower guys as well. So I think everyone here probably got their big break from that one big guy, and then it sort of snowballed from there.
Mine wasn't a guy. Mine was a network. Yeah, because I don't know if some people will be familiar with it, but it was Yoush.
Mm-hmm.
And Yoush was it was a small network. It was ran by Chaos Silencer and Big Snacks, which I'm not even going to get into my thought on that. But no, but there was a they were the first network. I mean, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this. That really did a graphic design, illustration oriented channel as a network channel, and started partnering through YouTube as a as a graphic designer. Because I mean, back I'd have to say 2009, 2010. I mean, to see a partner channel was like, I mean, you had to be like someone like Fred. I mean, like, you had to have millions and millions of subscribers, a big following and stuff like that. And there wasn't really a network. It was like either you were with Machinima and they partnered you, or it was YouTube. And Machinima still at that time was there were very few people with partnership under Machinima. And I remember just the Yoush, it was called GamerGFX at the time. They came out with a video, and one of the lead designers of the network, who kind of ran the design side, put out a contest. Whoever won the contest got a partnership role, and two people won the contest. It was me, and I can't think of the other guy. He ended up going to some Optic, Team Optic or whatever it was. But yeah, and that's what kind of carried me on. It really wasn't like a guy, you know what I mean? It was more just a network kind of blew up my name. Mm-hmm. But I do agree. I mean, there is that one person or thing that kind of blows your name out there in this medium that we're in. But yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was just gonna say, like, especially like right now with, I always say if I was doing this and I was at this level and I was at this age and I was doing all this 10 years ago, it wouldn't be possible. Like, with the internet and the way that the world now, I mean, the world isn't seen anymore as different countries. It really is all interconnected, and we're all connected by the internet, so you can have clients everywhere. And the fact is, like, one little tweak can just blow up, and it can happen at any time. But the one thing to keep in mind is that any of these clients that pay you to do work, especially when you're just getting started, the way that I always used to look at it, and this is what motivated me, was these guys are paying me to practice, because that's what it is. Because way back then, like 2 or 3, 4 years ago, I was nowhere near as good as what I am now, and I could show you stuff to prove it, and people were still paying for it. And as I progressed, obviously prices change and everything goes on, and that it does. But remember that the way to keep it in mind, the only way you're going to get better is by practicing. And if these people are willing to pay for your work, they are paying you to practice, to continue to practice. So if you keep that in mind, they're paying you to get better, essentially. And so that's why you always try and do as best a job you can. And then also
they're essentially paying us to do what we love. I mean, as weird as it sounds, it's literally. I mean, that's what it is.
That's what I was gonna add. With Josh and what Raider is saying, practicing and doing what you love is huge. I mean, because if you're just trying to do this to get a name, that you're going about it completely wrong. If you're not passionate about graphic design, you're not going to get a name in graphic design. You really have to love it and be good at it and practice and put the work into it. Otherwise, your name's not going to be worth anything.
100%. I know, because somebody, I don't know, Nick, it might have been you who's kind of going around like, you have to, in this medium, you really have to try to look, in a future, make yourself kind of like, okay, I want to be a graphic designer in the future and build your way up. And I completely agree with you, and that's when you see the successful designers in the Call of Duty arena and whatever. You're right. The successful ones are the ones that are building themselves and that are trying to become a they're trying to make it a career. But there are a ton of these of people that design just for the name. They want the instant gratification. They don't really take the actual graphic design and what it is and what it means and the whole theory behind it, and they don't really put that to heart, which, it's frustrating, but, people do what they want. I can't tell them, you're wrong, and if you want to do it, you can do it, but
Yeah, I think
it pays off to actually invest your time and really try to, make a future out of what you love doing.
Yeah, and I think if you love it, you will find that the clients will just come eventually because you're that passionate about it and you just don't stop. And, before you know it, you've got a job as a graphic designer somewhere and, you wake up loving what you do. You get to wake up and actually be like, I can't wait to work today,
Right.
And if you don't have that mentality, then I think it's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Evan?
Yeah, it's if you're out to do it just for limelight, it's gonna get old fast. I would think it's the people that I've seen get really successful at it were they slept and ate and dreamt design or illustration or whatever it was. That's all they did, and it would show in their portfolio. It would show in the work they did. They'd churn out. It'd be one of those people that you'd see, say, a logo design or something. You'd see a lot of different revisions for somebody, or a lot of different mock-ups of designs for one person, and then or for a company or something. Then you'd see this one guy that's just been doing it. That's all he does. He just loves branding, loves logo design, and does like one, and it just out trumps everybody else's. It's that good. That's because he loves doing it. It's one of those things where you can't imagine yourself doing anything else. It's just
Right.
But if you're in it just for the, I don't know, the number of followers next to your name, your priority's a little out of whack there.
I agree.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Pick a different field because there's so many. It's so competitive in the design market, in the design. So if you want to become famous, maybe just play games or something like that. I don't know. It might be an easier road.
Well, it's not that. The competitive. It is very competitive, but it's not a competitiveness where it's like. How do I explain it? It's not like...
When I say competitive, I mean as in there is a lot of really good people out here.
Right,
so
right.
If you're going to stand out, then you really need to stand out,
right. Yeah. It's very hard. I guess the better way to put it out is more, you really have to stand out if you, you really got to put a lot into it if you want to, be up there with the big boys. But...
Well, the you say competitive, and I understand you mean it's a competitive industry, right? It's like not
every
not
industry
saturated, but
yeah,
there's a lot of people that want to do it. But as far as competitive personalities, I've noticed that a lot of the best designers I've come across are not competitive against each other. They're always out to help each other. So
I agree.
Sorry, well, that's the way I mean it. But I, as in competitive, as in the skill level is very high, and if you're going to stand out and make something out of it, you really need to be committed and devoted.
Right.
It's definitely competitive though. With you see a piece of work come out from a very talented designer, and you're like, man, I got to top it. There's something. Everybody has that in their head where they do want to top it. I love looking at everyone else's work. There's some work I remember I was just looking on Behance a few days ago, and I was like, Jesus, I suck. Like when I was just looking at it, it was just ridiculous, but it is it is a competitive area where you definitely want to try to get to the highest possible. But I don't think it's a competitive way like where it's like Call of Duty or sports where it's just trash talking all the time like it's competitive. But,
That's the drama. That stays way over there.
yeah, I completely agree. It's not like me and Evan are going back at it like, man, I'm gonna get you next time, boy.
Yeah, I think it's competitive in the sense that like you need to compete sort of against yourself while competing against the people that are trying to get a job as well. Like when I was interviewing for the job I have now at the design agency, there was like 6 or 7 other designers in this one room with like all these computers, and they were literally giving us different projects. And I'm looking around the room and I'm like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know if they worked there. And I was like, are you guys interviewing? They're like, yeah. Are you interviewing? And I'm like, yeah. And they're just like, I'm like, shit, this is competitive. Okay. So, yeah, in that sense, I think it is a little competitive, because, people don't want to hire the average. They want to hire the best. And so you have to push yourself.
Well, and also you got to think about it from the client's perspective. Imagine, like, none of us could even imagine what it's like for somebody that is looking for a logo or a rebrand on their social media or website, like how many choices they have to really go through with all the designers that they have available. Like, I can't even imagine the nightmare that they go through to just pick the one, just pick one guy.
Yeah.
You can look at portfolios all day, but
I think with that, one thing we were talking about earlier is kind of building your portfolio and doing work to show, like, hey, this is what I can do. One thing that I'm noticing at my school about all these people that are graduating, and they're like, you work at this agency. How did you get that job? I'm not getting a job. What's going on? I'm like, well, let me see your portfolio. And it's nothing but, it's like maybe 5, really good, logos, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm hitting next. I'm like, okay, well, where's your layout? Like, any web design? Do you have any print stuff? Do you have any? I think one thing that helped too, and this is outside of the gaming world. We're talking graphic design in general, but I think diversity in your portfolio will really help you get a job as well. It's cool if you love.
100%.
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, depending on the job you're trying to go after. I mean, there's some places that are specifically looking for an illustrative graphic designer, but most of them are looking for someone that's well-rounded. And if you have to make up projects to build your portfolio, I mean, that's what I did. I pretty much just like made up some fake clients and, pretty much built an entire fake branding around them with print stuff, a website, a logo. And if you have to do that and you're looking for a job, then, you got to do that. So you're not just going to some magical client's not just going to come down and be like, hey, do this for me. You just have to make it up sometimes.
Yeah, no, companies these days that hire design types, they're essentially looking for people that can just wear multiple hats and really switch. I mean, sometimes it's just the nature of the job. You're going to go in and be there to do design, but you're going to pick up other things, depending on where the needs are at, because in the end the company's got to make money and you got to keep a job. So there's times when you might end up doing production work, or you might end up going out and directing some of the photo shoots or something, if it's say for an ad or something. Or if you're out where I'm at, you better learn how to do some coding. Because
speaking of that,
if you can design a website, you better be able to build it. So
having some of the code knowledge that I do really made me stick out when I was interviewing too. Like with the websites, they noticed that I was using a grid system, that I was using web-safe fonts and all that stuff, and that I built a sprite sheet. They were like, "You built a sprite sheet?" And so I mean, when you have multiple tools, not just like, here's my logo designs, like that's going to get you hired.
When I started at the agency, I started as like a designer, sort of HTML coder and stuff like that, and by the end I was programming in .NET, and I was in charge of doing all the iOS development as well. So I mean, we needed some iOS stuff done, so I was just like, right on, and nowadays you can learn all that stuff like sitting on your ass. It's like, seriously, they go on iTunes and find out this iTunes University thing. They record like the lectures from like Stanford University and all these, and you can just sit in there and learn. I mean, it's incredible the amount of resources that we have available to us now. That, I mean, there really is no reason why, you know, you can't specialize in all this sort of stuff.
I mean, imagine from a company's perspective how ludicrous it sounds to be like, I'm a web designer and I don't do anything else. Like, could you imagine a company that built their company that way? They structured it to where they hired a web designer, a graphic designer, and a programmer, and if one of them calls out sick, they're completely crippled for a day. Like, how do you, that's a horrible business model. So you really got to have a lot of weapons at your disposal, because I guarantee you if you don't have those weapons at your disposal, somebody else does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's fun to have, you know, your specialty, and that will show in your work, you know. But yeah, you definitely need to, like, I mean, for the graphic designers that are doing that and trying to find a job, like, if you haven't ever opened InDesign, like, you definitely need to start learning that stuff.
Ooh,
I hate that program.
No, trust me, I'm not saying I love the program, but if you're looking for an agency job or looking for kind of a full-time career graphic design job.
Oh yeah, I had to use it all this year in school, and it was just. By the time I was done, I was just like, dude, I don't ever want to look in that program ever again.
Yeah, it's.
It is frustrating. I look at InDesign in the way that Evan looks at Flash. Like,
Flash is on like a whole lower level.
Yeah.
I know, but no, like Evan has hatred towards Flash. That like, I don't even know.
Because I had to work in it for like 3 years. I was done.
You guys stop hating on my baby.
You can have all the Flash you want, Nick. It's all yours.
Yeah, because HTML5 and CSS3 is here to save the day.
Yeah.
So I wanted to. God, I just got sidetracked by that whole thing. I like had this question in mind for a while we were talking, and then it just completely just was like, oh, you want to talk about it now?
I got a question for you guys. Actually, I got asked this question just recently, and it was a good question, and I was curious how other people would answer it. I was asked, when do you know it's time to do a redesign or a rebrand? When do you know?
For yourself?
For anything. So to put it in context, say for yourself, or you know, for a company or something. Say, when do you know that it's time to step back and look at everything and change things?
When it's outdated.
How do you know when it's outdated?
I'm particularly interested to hear what Zach has to say, because he's the king of rebrands.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to get something straight here. Rebrand, revamp, all this stupid terminology, it doesn't matter. It's all the same difference. Let's
talk about that just real briefly.
I did get hounded on Twitter for that, and I was just like, guys, what the hell does it matter? Like, what does it matter? I can just. But no, I know when it's more of like, I do it just when it's outdated. Like, for instance, I mean, if you're looking at some sort of, I mean, and this is, I've done this not even just on YouTube, but in real life clients. But you know, if a lot of the thing is that the design and the styles and all these different things are changing and growing so fast. And there's a lot of companies out there that are like, you know, what do I do? I'm not pulling in clients, I'm not doing this, not doing that. And a lot of it, I mean, some of it just comes, you know, from the look of it. So I think it's just when it's outdated. Like, if something just looks old or it just doesn't look like eye-appealing, you switch it.
Yeah, it's got a 5-pixel drop shadow on the text and like a
red and
blue bright color scheme. Yeah, like I mean, it just kind of has that look. Like
and you get it from a design standpoint. You kind of know. It's like, you know, all right, that's a little outdated. Let's try to change it up. Now, personally, for me, I I never rebrand my own logo. That logo it stays. There is no changing that. I'm never changing that logo. I don't think I ever will, just because of how universally it can be used in so many different ways and look so different and everything. I mean, watch this, like years from now, I'm gonna end up changing it. But that logo.
We got it on audio.
Go back to this video and just be like, but no, no, I couldn't see myself changing. But if I were to like redesign like a YouTube layout or a whole social media thing, I do when I'm bored. Honestly, I'm always liking to change stuff. I never can find anything that satisfies myself. But that's me. I never am satisfied with my own design for myself. I always have to change it.
Travis, do you get clients with GamerGFX that sort of tell you why they need a rebrand and stuff like that? You probably have an interesting perspective on this question.
Yeah, every once in a while we'll get one that's like, here's my current logo, or here's, whatever it may be. And it's just for various reasons. Sometimes they're just looking for something with an overall, like, better quality, or maybe they just want a new look. A lot of times I think it's a little deeper than just, a logo. I mean, a brand is as you guys probably know, I'm sure, it's not just designing a logo. It's so much deeper than that. It's the message behind the company, and I think that's why most people, because Evan, you asked, when is it time to rebrand? I think it's mostly based on the company's history, and if they've built maybe a bad reputation, or maybe there was something in their old brand that, started some fires or something, then that's when I think it would be time for a rebrand, because a new logo means, it's kind of like clean house, it's like...
Clean slate.
Yeah, so, like, okay, so big example, like Walmart. Walmart just did, like, this giant rebrand. They used to have that, just with the one font, right, with the logo, with a star. And then they changed to this, like, yellow sunburst thing.
Yeah.
But they also changed their complete color scheme inside their stores, and they got rid of the
Spark, by the way.
Yeah, they got rid of that like rollback circle guy.
It's a spark, by the way. Like, what?
Is that what I mean? Because honestly, I bet if you look into it,
I thought it was a sunburst, to be honest.
I don't know what it was. I mean, what I thought it was is it was like they're trying to like look a little more green or like eco-friendly or like I don't know, but
that's what I thought too. So hey,
yeah, I think it's a. But I think I think the whole purpose behind timing of rebranding is in most cases it's because they want a clean slate. They either got a new CEO or whatever it may be, and they just want to completely refresh the whole company's not just external but internal motivation.
That's a hard question to answer too. I mean, 'cause there's really no right answer.
There's a lot of reasons. Yeah, that's why I thought it'd be a interesting question. I mean, to me, my response is just simply when it stops working. When sales aren't coming in or clients aren't coming in or something, maybe it's time to reposition everything. And if that means redesign, then but I can definitely see how if you if you burned your reputation or something, that would definitely is need for that might even be a rename at some point.
Yeah, most of the clients that come in at my agency, that's exactly why. Just because sales aren't coming in, and they're pretty much looking at every avenue, and branding is one of those.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just think a lot of companies nowadays are very, like I said, they're just I mean, I can name a lot of companies that just the logos are outdated.
Well, it's
I mean. But I mean, you go on the if you ever go. I mean, of course, you guys have been to a store, but you go to stores and you look at you go up to the front, and when you're going to pay, the things that pop out of your that catch your eye are the things that are new, that are different, that you don't see much, and that's really And then secondly, of course, it's the display, like how it's displayed out and stuff. And that's getting into marketing, and that forget about that. But no, but the design, it's like 5 Hour Energy. Personally, I think that's an old design. people are passing that up for, I see these little mini things that are exactly like it that probably are worse product, or I don't know, but I don't really drink it. But the point is, it looks cooler, so people are going to grab it, buy that, and that's their new thing.
Yeah. I think
actually, didn't they just change one of their things to, like, instead of a red bottle, it's a black bottle?
Yeah, I think that's a different formula or something. It's like meant for something
that
else.
One I know has been like selling more because, like, it's a change. It's something, it's newer.
Yeah, I think Evan pretty much hit it on the head. It's about when it stops working. I mean, if you look at something like Google, Google's logo, I guess, could be considered, outdated in a way. However, they did change it slightly. But if it's already working, I'm trying to think of an example, like you said, a store, of some product or something where their logo hasn't changed for like 50, 75 years, and it doesn't even matter. As a graphic designer, it's easy for us to look at it and be like, oh, that's a crappy logo. But at the end of the day, like, who gives a crap if the product is selling, Yeah.
The money's coming in, then, hey.
The company is not concerned about, like, a bad logo. They're like, we're making billions of dollars a year. We don't really care if our logo's crap, so.
No, a really good example is Twitter. Twitter updates their logo.
He's done it a couple times.
4 years, probably 3 times. They do it. Once it was like a thick, weird-looking bird, and then now it's tilted, and then like it's. Then they slimmed it out, and they do little changes, but it.
Well, yeah. There's that. What did they call that? Somebody called that a realign at one point, where it's not. It's a revision of the current logo rather than a redo.
PayPal does it. PayPal just had a rebrand.
Yeah, actually, I think what Evan was getting to is sort of like it's also not just for the look of it, but it's for the application of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of situations, these outdated logos with the drop shadows and the weird effects, they're just not going to work in certain print situations. They're not going to work. You're not going to be able to laser engrave a drop shadow. So I think that is another reason why people would want to update, and that might be why Twitter did, because they used to have that T, that lowercase t with like the gradient and blue,
like
stuff.
weird indent.
Yeah.
I think that was part of their. I think that was part of their division from Facebook as well. They really wanted to establish themselves from Facebook.
That makes sense.
Facebook has had that little F since they started. So I think
Has Facebook ever changed their logo?
I don't think so.
I don't use Facebook. I haven't been on that site.
There's the cost. A lot of these companies, they so much of their what's the word, collateral and advertising and everything has that logo everywhere. So just the cost of changing, like it was actually interesting to see PayPal do that, because I can only imagine. I'm sure they're not. Or they might be. I don't know. I'm sure company employees are still waiting for updated business cards with the new logo on it.
Oh, yeah.
And there's probably internal signage everywhere that still has the old logo on it. So, the amount of money that goes into just switching that out for some of these companies is just, it's just ridiculous. They spend the budget of getting the logo made and the budget of just putting that logo everywhere.
Well, think about like Chili's. Chili's used to have this like older logo with the actual chili in it, but I've started, or Wendy's, for example. Wendy's did like a full rebrand.
I noticed that. They have a whole different text.
Yeah. And they're still updating the stores. It's gonna take years. Yeah. So the cost is huge for that. On those levels of rebranding. So
I did notice. I didn't notice the chili one until like a second ago. Now I think about it, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I couldn't think. Yeah, you're right.
But imagine how much it costs to rebrand. Their entire store. Their entire restaurant. The interior and everything is all updated. Same thing with Wendy's. They're going with this like more modern, like taller glass windows and stuff. That is like billions of dollars, and maybe not billions, but
I remember they used to be like housed in that old. Ugh.
Yeah.
It is time for Wendy's to do that, but
What do you think, Josh?
Well, I don't have any of these stores that you guys are talking about. So. We got McDonald's. Do you guys have McDonald's?
We do. And then Ronald McDonald is making a comeback with this like updated suit or something.
Oh, he never went away from over here. But
He's still there?
Yeah, no, he's still kicking it.
They need
He's
to bring
still
back the
selling.
Hamburglar. They need to make that.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Hamburger.
And
He
what
was
the
the
other
guy.
one? Tweety Bird. Yeah, and then there's the Grimace, the big purple dude.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys got him.
Yeah.
He looked like Barney, just who let himself go. But I mean, I got 2 points here. I guess. I mean, firstly, there's a difference between rebrand. I mean, you're not going to see McDonald's. You're not going to see Apple. You're not going to see them move away from their devices. You're not going to lose the golden arches. You're not going to lose the Apple logo and stuff like that. But you will sometimes see subtle updates. Obviously, the Apple logo used to be like a rainbow technicolored thing, and it got updated to be what it is now and stuff like that. So. But I guess for me, it's this really, although I worked in a marketing agency for like 7 years, it really isn't something that I have to deal with personally because I don't do a lot of branding. I mean, I don't. I mean, recently the only thing that I can think of was like the Posh Life stuff, which I did a little bit of branding for them. Which is just like more of a website cleanup, and that was just because that the website was done rather hurriedly, and I just wanted to clean it up and make it look a bit more professional. But I guess in my game with the stuff that I do, it's more like say it's YouTube banners or server logos and all this sort of stuff, and the times that I find people want to update or rebrand or change their logo or stuff like that, and they usually find it pretty hard because if they get a logo done, they're like, oh, yeah, we really like it, but we want to do another one again now. And I'm like, doesn't bother me, let's do it, more work. But what I had one client who I think that the issue was that they didn't actually know what they wanted to begin with, and I think that could probably cause a lot of updates. We did a logo, I did up a design, did a logo, he said, oh, that's awesome, love it. And then they say, okay, I'm going to drop the money again, let's do another one, this is what I want, this is the idea. I was like, alright, it's completely different, same text, same everything, did it. And then, no joke, 2 days later, okay, I'm going to drop the money again, let's do another logo. And so we did 3 in total. And I was like, how many? And I think they asked for a 4th one, I was like, alright, come on, like, we're done, yeah, if you've got a good logo can last for a long time, and if the client doesn't really know what they want to begin with, I think that's when they think it's time to update, to rebrand, stuff like that, because maybe they weren't 100% on the idea to begin with. But a lot of the time, like especially with the YouTube banners that I do for some of these guys, they just want like a freshen up. Maybe every now and then they just want a fresh up. So it's completely different. Like it's not even really rebranding per se, but it's the same sort of thing, right? They might just want to freshen up, or a lot of clients I do seasonal stuff, so maybe around Christmas time we might do a Christmas themed banner and stuff like that. So, but it really, that's more of, and a lot of the time we'll keep their branding. Like if they got an emblem or a logo, it will stay there, and then just the stuff around it changes. So. I guess in my game it's a little bit different because we can do that quite often. There's some guys that I'm doing updated thumbnails for every month, and updated banners and stuff like that every month. But I guess that isn't really branding per se. But the stuff around it is changing. So, and that just is a lot of the time because they're bored, just want something different.
I was actually going to say that you got me. But a lot of people, I've had the same thing where people just, they'll pay you, constantly just to keep doing different logos. A lot of it is just because they don't know what they want. Like, they see something like, oh, dude, I saw this logo on Twitter. Can you do something in this type of style? Yeah, yeah, sure, whatever, do it. And then the next day they see something in a completely different style. They want that. So it's just kind of like, where do you draw the line? Like,
you say, show me the money.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't.
I don't mind doing it. I don't mind doing it, but if you keep coming back over and over and over again, in hypothetically, I just branded 4 different companies.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I had the color palettes, I got all this different stuff, and like, what do I do with 4 different logos of the same company? It's like.
I'm actually in the process of doing a redesign or rebrand of myself. Whenever I first got into this community. I came from a background of forum design where you're basically a name and an icon, right? So whenever I was developing my branding for doing YouTube and Twitch designs and social media work, stuff like that, I kind of stuck with that business model where I'm a name and an icon, and that's really it. But now, since I've built myself up a little bit, now I'm kind of shifting my my purpose. You know, I'm shifting my what I'm going to be doing as far as in the design community, and expanding really is what it is. And so that's why I'm going to be doing my rebrand personally. And I think a lot of the time, whenever you see a company do a true rebrand, which is just completely changing their identity basically, it's going to be for a different business model, whether it's per a merger with another company, or they've got a bad reputation for whatever reason. You know, that's going to be your general reason for a full rebrand. Is you just need to start fresh, basically, where your current branding is not working, like Evan said, but also maybe even a deeper thing, where it has a negative connotation, like Evan's original logo got overrun by Viagra, so you know, time to change.
I never did
If you
check
guys
to
don't
see if
know
those
what we're
ads are
talking
showing
about,
up
you
on the
should-
video or not. I wonder if they are.
What's that?
If those ads are showing up on the video.
Oh, we gotta check that. That'd be really funny.
Yeah, not that I noticed. Not that I
What is the
noticed.
sound effect that's like?
Yeah.
Yeah, where's my? I should be doing the sound effects right now. What's going on here?
I just opened a can of worms. I don't think I wanted to.
Is that your
No,
microphone?
I got kind of another question for everybody, but for Travis, so you guys do the esports logos like extremely well, and I want to know what's your favorite logo, like outside of just in general of the whole world. What's the most favorite like logos you've come across that really stuck out in your head?
Say the Evan Eckhart logo.
The what?
Yeah.
Say the Evan Eckhart logo. He's in the call. He's in the call. He's right there.
That'll give him points.
Say Team Caliber. Say Team Caliber, and Zach will go crazy.
Yeah. Man. Well, I appreciate the comments, but that is such a hard question, man. Because the thing is, as you guys know, there's so many different styles of logos. I've always been a fan, and it's what I do at my agency. Is just like the super simple logos that have kind of a deeper meaning. I mean, it's gonna sound like such a cliche answer, I guess, but like I honestly love how simple Nike's logo is, and the meaning behind it, the swoosh. You know, like most people don't look into that kind of stuff, but the whole thing with like the what is it, the mythical god or something like that, Achilles or something like that. But the thing is like, I think it's just a matter of simplicity to me and meaning behind it. You know, something can look great, but if there's no relevance to it, or to what the whole brand stands for, that those are the logos that I think I most enjoy, is when there's an extreme, you know, deeper meaning or double meaning or relevance to the actual brand in the logo itself. But man, I don't know. I'm constantly taking pictures when I'm just walking around Target with my wife and stuff of just like every logo that I see that just sticks out. Like, oh, that one's awesome, cool. Oh, that one's cool. And I take pictures of them constantly. I can't say there's like one favorite logo because they're too diverse to answer that, I think, personally.
I think we all do that to a certain degree. My wife will catch me all the time and be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm looking at how they designed this tag on this shirt or something." I'm like, I'm just looking at the font, trying to figure out what font they use or something like that. I'm not looking at it.
I'll be taking pictures of like some random poster like close up, and she's like, "What are you taking a picture of?" She's like, "You're not taking a picture of the poster." I'm like, "It's the color, this specific color. I want it, like, which is not teal."
Yeah. I'm sorry, I had to just bust balls a little bit on that.
No, I honestly I appreciate that. It was I think it was around this time, which it's past midnight here for me on the East Coast, and like I'm like typing this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, it's teal color. You have to admit, it's kind of close to teal, but it is not teal. When you said that, I was like, son of a gun, he's alright.
I think my favorite logo is the FedEx logo. I just love the hidden arrow. Like, it just gets me every time I see it.
That is a very cool logo.
I wanted to bring something up with that. It's sort of not an argument, but more of a discussion that me and my professor have, and it's the people that design a logo, and I think we've all done this. I've done it personally, where you design a logo, you're done with it, you present it to the client, and then you kind of look and you're explaining, in your email, hey, here are the concepts I came up with. You're looking at it again, you're like, oh, I didn't realize like this works out this way, and then you just like, and his argument is like, he's like, you know what, dude? He's like, I'm pretty sure the guy that did the FedEx logo, he probably didn't even mean to do that, or maybe it was close to that, and then he saw it, and he was like, oh wait. There's an arrow in the negative space. Let me connect these, and now it's an arrow. I'm the best logo designer in the world. Like, I think a lot of times it's by mistake. Granted, I'm sure there's a lot of situations where it's definitely on purpose, but those seem to be a little more like obvious. Like, it's very obvious that like they meant to do that. Whereas FedEx is so subtle that my professor's like, I don't think he meant to do that, But I do like that. It's kind of funny when you tell people about that, and then they never look at the logo again.
I have definitely done that.
I cannot be unseen.
I don't know if I have like everyone else, I don't really have one favorite logo, but I do have a bunch that I go back to every single time. One of them is Jim Dunlop's logo for his musical stuff he makes. It's a D, but the D, I don't know how to explain it. It's the concept of it is just so, it's simple, and it really looks really nice. Another one, I love the Metallica M.
Yeah.
That M is,
That's classic.
that is, I mean, I don't know who came up with that, but that is one of the, to have that since the 80s, and it's
probably
still to this day is one of those iconic logos.
Yeah, mine's
It's probably
actually,
Evan. He's probably
music related too. It's the Misfits Crimson Ghost.
That is one hell of a cool logo.
Yeah.
And then another one, which is, I like John Petrucci's logo, which is on another musician, but it's just a J and a P in a bullet. And
What are your
looks really cool.
What are your guys like? I guess most hated logos. The ones that you look at and you're just like, God, I'm so sick of seeing this.
Oh gosh.
I'll tell you which one which one makes me mad is the Squarespace thing that keeps popping up. It's like, we'll design your website on your own, and that's just because it's less business for the agency. And it pops up like on everything too, because I'm constantly searching for web design stuff, and like the Squarespace thing will pop up. But I guess I just don't like it because it doesn't read like an SS very well to me.
I know my wife's hated logo right now is the United States Postal Service.
Oh, that's a frustrating.
If you can call that a logo, I don't know what that is.
No, mine actually is definitely, mine's the App Store logo.
The which one?
For Mac. The App Store logo for Mac.
Oh my God! That's so funny you said that. I was just thinking that last week when it popped up.
I don't like the logo.
You know the do not enter sign with like the thick rectangle in the center? It looks like
reminds me of.
with like just two random, like a paintbrush and like a ruler or something.
Marker. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. It's like apps. You're not going to fix something. Like, what's going on? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not too big of a fan of the iTunes logo either, just because I've seen the same logo for 5 years. Like, I want to see something new. But there's another thing. I want to see something. There you go. Something different. But, no, the App Store logo is horrendous. Like,
Yeah, I don't like the Google Chrome logo because it makes me think of Simon.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
I keep thinking I'm gonna load
Oh my
a
God.
software version of Simon or something. It doesn't. It just doesn't look like. But that's more.
But you
That's
guys
more
ever-
a generation thing, I think.
No, I used to have those all the time. Another one I don't like is Finder. If you're on Mac, it's the little square box, and it has a face, and it's just like this stick figure, and I'm like, really?
They're pretty much anything Apple does. You guys get a problem with.
Oh, I see, and I love Mac, and that's the thing. I have my Mac, and that's my thing. I just the Finder logo on the App Store logo. Ugh, I'm frustrated.
I don't really, because I don't do like I see I'm different. Like if you said what's your favorite or stuff like that, oh yeah, you for hours. So, but in terms of logos, like for me, I'm more of someone that can appreciate a good design, but rather, but yeah, I don't really go around photographing things that much, like logos or anything like that. But I guess. Like for me, any beer logo, because it means that there's a beer close by.
Yeah.
So seeing that really gets me excited. But I think going on bands, like it's sort of iconic symbols and stuff like that. I really like the Yoush, the Strangled Heart. I think
That is
just
a
sort of
very cool
famous.
logo.
Yeah, and I think that'll yeah, I don't know, I really like that. So.
That's a cool logo.
So just taking a quantum shift from what we're talking about, just to something that popped into my head. We were talking a lot about clients on the last episode, and one thing that I wanted to cover we didn't get a chance to, but I think we've all had that client that you'll bring them rough drafts and everything goes well, and then you bring them your second draft if you do that, and everything's going well, and then you get to the final product and they kind of want to make changes to it that aren't exactly small changes. You know, they're not like touch-ups, they're more like a new direction. A lot of times I'll have a discussion with the client about, you know, staying on course. I call it talking them off the ledge. But really it's talking myself off the ledge because I want to kill myself whenever that happens.
Oh, dude, it's funny. That just happened to me, and I think you're gonna know, Nick, who I'm talking about, and what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think so.
Guy was a good guy, you know. Came up to me, it was a good client, asked for a logo, all this stuff, and he wanted the template files with it, PSD files, AIs, all that stuff, and I sold it to him fine. I said, fine. I did my job, did this whole logo for him, did this, you know. He gets it. Day later, I gave it to him. I gave him all this stuff. Comes back like a day or two later. I changed my name. Is it easy for you to just change the name real quick for it?
Like as a designer,
Of course, I'm sitting there like just baffled that the guy would ask me for it because I just did the job. Like I just did it. Like you had it. You were happy with it. And
You just say, yeah, you can change your name as long as it's spelled exactly
and
the
he
same.
changed his name. So like I thought like okay, well I just designed something for absolutely, you know, waste of time, and comes back and just is like, you said you changed. It's different. I said, and I told the guy, I was like, listen, if you need social links changed, if you need stuff like that, I'm fine with that. It takes 2 seconds. But you changed something in a design that you have to completely rebrand. I made a logo.
It's a rebrand.
Like,
Changing your name is a total rebrand, so I'd charge him again. That's just me.
That's a new.
and that's why I said to him, and he just called me a scammer. I felt so, like, I felt bad because it was like, I didn't know what to do, like, cause, I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. I just felt bad because I I don't know, I'm a
No,
human.
no, it's like he wanted you to design like Honda, and then he came back and changed it to Ford. I mean, you can't.
Right. Like, what am I supposed to do, dude? Like, I mean, like, I can't. If you want to pay again, fine, and I'll give you the, even I'll even discount a little bit just because you've worked with me once, and you weren't somebody that was like a bad customer, and he just. Something clicked in his head where it was like scammer, and it was just automatic attack mode, and I was just like, okay, forget it.
I think as illustrators, Evan and Joshua have particularly good experience with somebody sort of changing their vision midstream and how they kind of talk them off the ledge.
Oh, here he goes. Hey!
That was perfect timing. That was perfect timing.
Thank you, over here to play. Well, yeah, I can tell you what my experience is, and I can actually do it relatively quickly as well. With my experience with this, because it's never ever happened to me, and the reason why is because I put process in place to avoid it. I can send you, basically what happens is I've got a document that I send a client as soon as we start talking. I say this is how it goes, and it's written out, and I could even send it to you guys. I'm opening it right now. It's on my notes on my computer, so it's synced through iCloud, so no matter what computer I talk to these people on, if it's a new client, I can just pull it up, and it runs through the entire process. And it says very clearly that first we work on a rough concept, I get sign-off from you. Okay, and I'm working on like a rough concept now, and it is really just scribble. It just shows how it looks and stuff like that. I send it to you, you sign off on it, then you pay the invoice. Once that invoice is paid, I do line work. I send it back to you, you approve it, and then we go to color. I send it back to you, you approve it. At each of those sign-off stages, I get a chance to tweak stuff like that. If we're at color and they say, oh, I want to move back, I don't like the direction and stuff like that, it says at the very bottom, it says, cool, you can't move backwards. You cannot move backwards in steps, and as soon as you do, then we just hit the time clock again. And then, that means that if they know up front that, hey, this is how it's going to work, then that process works perfectly for me. I have never in 5-6 years had a problem, and no one has ever done it before. People have said, I don't like the concept, like at the end of the process they say, I'm happy to do another one, and I'm happy to pay for it. So they know up front what they're in for. Now, if I did, but at the same point, because I work with them through 3-4, they're constantly getting updates and seeing how it's progressing, and I get them to sign off on the line work, I get them to sign off on color and stuff like that. It's like actually just recently it happened. I was doing a website. I completely did the website design. It works for websites as well. I did the website design in Photoshop. I sent them the still of the pages, and they said, "Yep, that looks good. Now let's make it happen." Cut the entire thing up. They said, "I hate it," and I said, "Cool. Well, here's the sign off and stuff like that. So that's fine. So if you want to redo it, then that's fine. And here's what it'll cost." And they said, "Yeah, well, that's right. That's how it goes." And so they were fine for that. I mean, if they said I want a logo and I want it to say Bob, and then I come back and I finish the logo, completely. When I say logo, I use the word logo very different to what you guys do. So like I'll illustrate it up and it will say Bob, and there'll be little characters on it or something like that. A logo isn't really a logo. But if I just came back and it's fully colored and it's all done, then yeah, I can understand them saying, well, wait a second, that's not what I want. But as I work with them through the process, I find that never happens because they know what they're in store for. So when it gets to that end point, they've already seen 3 or 4 different progressions of it as it goes along.
And using this like process, you've really never had a client to where you've had a problem with it at all, or?
Never. Like I've thrown them a rough and they said, I don't like the rough. Yeah, I don't like that composition. I'm like, sweet, so let's do something else. But the roughs take 10 minutes, whereas the final art piece might take 6, 7, 8 hours, depending how big it is. If they find it at rough stage and they're like, oh yeah, no, I don't like how that sits. Can we add another character in here? Can we pull that down? And then I say, okay, this is going to be blue, this is going to be yellow, and I explain what the colors are going to be. They're like, yeah. That I can understand it, sort of thing. And I don't know why it works, it just has. And I'm not saying that it works. What's that?
I said I think I'm going to actually start doing that. Because I think that's part of the reason it happened is because I really don't have a guideline. I kind of am like, listen, I give you, and I really give myself a time window, which I shouldn't, but I give them like 3 to 5 days. They said it should be done. And within 3 to 5 days, I show them, little cutouts, and most of the time they like it. But once that 5-day hits, if they say I don't like it, I don't want to waste 5 days.
That's right, yeah. And what I do works great for illustration. It doesn't work. It's not going to work for everything, though. It may not work for logos and stuff like that. But like when I do logos, it's a little bit different. Sometimes I'll sketch up an idea or something like that and just give them something. But I mean, as I said, I do, design sort of logos. What you guys do really, really well, and I do at a very, very, very amateur level. I do them very rarely. So for illustrations, it works great, especially for like poster commissions and things like that. For website designs, I find it works good because I can do it in Photoshop and I can design it up, send it to them, and then they can say yes or no before I actually take it to the code and start cutting up, doing all the HTML, CSS, and stuff like that. And as I said, I don't know why it works, but it's been 6 years now, and I have never ever had an issue. So I may be lucky, or the process might just work. I guess I don't know. So
that's a process that I think it works pretty much for anything. Now it different what each stage would be, but if you break it down and if you look at whatever it is you're doing and break it down into stages, and set find like breakpoints where the next step is going to take a lot of time, and we need to like in web design, we'll do low fidelity wireframes and just figure out where the layout's going to be, and and even prior to that, we'll do just a sitemap and just in text figure out what each page is called and what falls off each page, and you've done this too, Josh. And then do the wireframes. It can be as simple as there's programs like Visio or a couple sketch programs where it's just boxes. You're just putting boxes everywhere and just labeling them, and it gives you an idea of the layout, and you get sign off on that. And then you do the high fidelity stuff. And it's not code, it's just pixels. You get the sign off on that, and then then you go into development, and development's that can get tricky too, though, because then you see all the interactions actually working, and sometimes there can be some tweaking there. So that one I don't really have a good sense on how to track that one yet, but if you can take
I don't think there really is. That one's really tricky. But then again, code can be cut out and paid. I mean, it's a little bit more pliable than an actual drawing or a logo where you go down this path.
So I can see that working with logos. There could be some stages there. There's definitely revisions, and then that's usually something that I've heard a lot of people just they'll put a number on how many logos up front. Like maybe 4 or 5 at the most, and then I try not to do more than 3, but as far as directions, and then
that's how I am.
And then go down, figure out what path they want to go down, and do maybe 2 more off that path, and then but I could see how you could do like your same document saying this is what's going to happen. You're going to get 3, then you get 2 revised, then you're going to get the final. That's it. If you want to change something, go back a step. That's probably a redo. So.
I mean, in saying that as well, when I worked in the agency, we worked with a graphic designer, and that's exactly what she did. She said you'll have 2 revisions.
Yep.
You'll have a document that they send to the client before you get started, and 90% of the time, the client's not going to care. Like, it's all going to be all kosher with them.
Yeah.
But as long as they know up front. They don't hide these 2 changes and then like at the end say, oh, you've had your 2 changes, and they're like, well, hang on a second, what 2 changes are you talking about? Let them know. It's like, hey, and what she would do up a sheet of them, like 6 or 7 different ideas, and then from there, hey, I like idea B, I like idea C. Can we take this from here, and then take those 2 ideas, and as you said, tree branch down, and then this is the one, and then take it, clean it up, do up the brand guidelines, because you don't want to be going through. I mean, brand guidelines can be pages and pages and pages of like logo has to be this far. This is the kerning here. You can't have this space in here, stuff like that. If you get to the end of that, and then they say, oh, you know what, we're going to call our company Jim Bob,
design instead or something like that. It's like, well, man,
What is up with you and the word Bob, man?
it's
Bob.
Jim Bob, eh? So yeah, it's I mean that's yeah, I mean be upfront with the client beforehand and put these guidelines in place, and usually they're willing to play ball. I mean they want what you want. You know, you want to have a good design and you want to make the client happy. They want to be happy and they want to kick ass design. So I mean there's no reason why you need to work against each other.
Yep.
I agree.
What do you think, Travis?
I think Josh and Evan pretty much said it all. It's all about being transparent. The more transparent you are with the client, they're going to see the processes. They're going to see why you ended up in whatever direction you did. And if they're driving, then they're going to feel like they're making the decisions and not you. And the more concepts you show, the more processes that you show. You know, when we do mascot logos, we do exactly what Josh and Evan do with their illustrative work. We show a couple poses, just straight up, you know, very free flow sketch of sort of the idea. They'll be like, okay, we like, you know, number 2 out of 4 or whatever. And then we'll say, okay, and we're very upfront and transparent with them. You know, okay, well, once we get here, we're going to do it a little more detailed. If you want to go back, it's going to, you know, there's going to be problems basically. So you just have to let them know really. And I think if you do, then they're kind of in the driver's seat and you're in the designer's seat, and that's where you want to be.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's exact. I mean, and just to add to that as well, I mean, I don't like saying it, but I mean, it's true as the designers here. The goal is to make your client feel handsome and powerful. They make them feel like they're making decisions. All right. There's quite often where you do a logo sheet and you'll throw in 3 or 4 crap ones, and then, you know, I mean that's okay to do as well. I mean, but you make your client feel like they are handsome and powerful, and it'll. I mean, that's all they want. I mean, they and include them along the way. You know, exactly like what you were saying.
Yeah, that's what we do at the agency. I'll get I get most of the logo requests that come in, and I'll do maybe 3 or 4. But we always, in a website design, same situation with the wireframes. Then we move into the actual PSD. Then we move into, and by the way, the functionality, showing functionality. Yeah, I'm not there yet either. But there's Envision app, if you guys have checked that out, which can show the user like the interaction of the whole site, which is kind of nice. But yeah, anytime something comes in, we always give, you know, I'll do like 3 or 4 concepts, and then we'll have someone else do 2 or 3, and we'll just throw them all in there because then that way the clients, basically, in short, the more decisions the client can make, sometimes you'll end up with better results and a more happier client because they were driving the project a little more than usual.
I think one way also to sort of get into that situation, if you find yourself in that situation where the client is unhappy with the final product and they want to make a major change, simply explaining to them what goes into that process of completely altering the direction of the project. A lot of times people outside of the design community don't realize what goes into what you've done. Especially with web design, it's the worst because people really don't understand how programming on a website works, right? They just see a site and they think, I want to change this from pink to red. And they think, oh, that's just a simple, you just click a different color on a color wheel. There's a magical color wheel somewhere and you just click it and it changes the color, right? But we know as designers that that's a lot of coding that you have to go through and replace. So I find a lot of times just explaining to them, you know, I hear what you're saying, and I can do that for you, but it's going to be something that I'm going to have to charge extra for because this is the process that I have to go through in order to make that change.
Well, yeah, it's stuff, especially web design with visual designs like that. That's something that when my old job at coworkers, you know, I'd have to tell them that you know, that's something that should have been caught in the mock-up stage, right?
Yeah.
And that's hard to tell when it's more of a client relationship. You know, you kind of have to. I guess it depends on how how much you want to finish the project or what's riding on it. But you know, it's hard to get them to think like that. That after even what they may think is minor, you know, it's like, yeah, that should have been captured the last round. You know, that's not a now thing.
Yeah. I have to be honest. I guess in a way I somewhat disagree explaining to them everything that goes in. I don't think that's something that a client wants to hear. You know, I think most people nowadays, I mean, with all these like crazy apps and photo editor stuff that's out there that's free, I think most people know how much work goes into it, and that's why they're contacting you in the first place. So I think trying to explain why it's going to take a long time, like, oh, I have to do this and this and this, they probably just don't care. And as Evan said, I think, and Josh, I think that's why these processes should be in place, because you need to catch those things. If there was supposed to be a search bar and a full search functionality throughout an entire website, and the designer didn't put any kind of search or search results design, or he didn't do any kind of, you know, drop down for something, then that's kind of on the designer and the agency or whoever's handling that project, and not necessarily the client. But it still happens. It still happens.
That reminds me of the high school I went to. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
There's ways to make. Yeah, I was just going to say there's ways to make clients care. I mean, it comes a lot down to, hey, you might be a great designer and you might be good at what you do, but there's also this other side of our game which is called client management.
Yep.
And that just, you learn that from experience, you learn that from getting burnt, and you learn that from getting run over a couple of times. But one of the way, and I'm not sure how much we guys could, we do a lot over the internet. Our clients will be a long way away, but again, I've been out of the agency game for about a year now, so it may be different. But there's times like, oh no, we want to make this change, or we want to make this change. Oh, can we change this? Tweak this. I got to the point where, okay, if they're doing it this many times, then what we do is say, hey, yep, that's fine, no worries. What we're going to do, you come in here and you sit down, and we're going to, and you just obviously say it nicely, say, come in here and let's talk about it and stuff like that. Get them in there and get them to sit over your shoulder, and you do it, and then they start to learn, oh, hang on a second. And trust me, once their time is involved, they'll be like, oh no, actually that's okay.
Yeah.
But see, when they can just bark orders from across an email, it doesn't translate to anything. But as soon as they're sitting down there and they're looking at their watch, they're going, oh, actually, all right, well, yeah, that's it's like, yeah, you know what, yeah, that'll work. So, there's certain client management tricks. I mean, I'm not being shady about it or anything like that, but it's more so making sure that what you do is as transparent as possible to the client, I guess, and so they have an understanding of what you do. Because 90% of the time, you have no idea. I mean, they could be like garden landscapers or something like that, and you're like, oh, what? I've got no idea. Like, how long does it take to do a garden? I mow my lawn in 30 minutes. You have no idea what they do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the time they may have no idea what you do. So, to bridge that gap can sometimes help speed up the process a little bit.
It's kind of funny that you talked about putting in sort of those bait logos where they're just kind of bad or not in the right direction, so that they kind of lean towards the one that you want, that you like the most.
Except when they choose one.
Yeah,
That happens so much.
actually,
You're just like, no.
Oh, and that happens.
You got to get it just right.
I actually did
That's
that.
knowing your client, though. That's knowing enough that you know you can drive them down a direction. But then sometimes you have those oddballs, like, it's like of all of them, they inevitably. Well, you just talked about that, Zach, with the I won't name it, but the logo that did all these versions, and the one you like the least, they picked it, and it's like, oh, all right,
Well, yeah, it's like, no, I've had it happen a few times. Like, I just was like, all right, I'm going to be a little snaky, and I'm going to do one really sick one, and then just two really crappy ones. And I remember I did one where it was like an S engulfing a C, and they're like, oh, I love that. Let's go with that. I'm like, no, I'm supposed to do this.
And then you have to deal with it for like months.
Yeah, you're like, it doesn't even say your company name.
Jim Bob.
I do something that's a little bit different. Sometimes I will throw in those bait logos, but what I do, and it's really kind of sneaky actually, but what I do is the one that I want, the one that I want them to pick, I'll make it slightly larger than the other ones.
Or you just blur the other ones out. I mean, that always works too.
It's like multiple choice. You know, when you had A, B, C, or D, you put it in like the C spot because everybody likes to pick C on a multiple choice quiz, right?
They do.
Yeah. I'm really digging A, but C is really good right now. I don't know why.
It's all, you can't go wrong. You always choose C.
C's the answer 25% of the time. Might as well go with that one.
Or the worst is D, all of the above. Can you just combine all these concepts
Like,
into one logo?
all of them and mash them into one mess.
That's when they pick the worst one, you say, okay, we're going to go down that route and do 2 more revisions, and you just replace them with the 2 you liked.
Oh, we love that.
Well, you know, actually, now that I think about it, I can do 2 more real quick. Hold on.
Why didn't you do that originally?
That's always fun when you start out with the one that you want to do, and they're like, we don't like that. You make a bunch of changes, and I call it, this is the full circle. And you just end up, this is exactly where you started. That happens all the time. But
I sat through entire meetings of a web design where we did that, and I was about ready just to kill somebody. We had we must have been on like meeting number 10 with the VP of marketing, and they're doing all the like positioning and writing of the the taglines and slogans to sell this software. And it literally came around to the point where they wrote taglines on there, and I turned my laptop around and said, "Look, this was the first design we did," and it says it right across the front. And I got up and left.
Yeah, that actually just happened last week. We're doing this local takeout company that will basically deliver food for restaurants that don't offer delivery.
Right.
So this company will go in and actually deliver it, to your home or your business or whatever. And that definitely happened. It was like version 1, and then before you know it, like a few weeks later, you're on version 17.5e, and you're like, I'm looking at 17.5e, and I'm like,
that's
version 1. Version 17.
That's the equivalent of dropping the mic for a designer. You're just like,
yeah, I'm done.
this is version 1, I'm out.
What's that one like e-card thing where he's like throwing the papers in the air? Looks like it's whatever time o'clock.
Oh, I don't give a clock.
Yep.
Yeah. That's one thing I missed about being in the office and the agency and stuff like that. Like you'll be sitting there, everyone's working, and you hear someone on the phone like, "Yeah, no, that's no problem. Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to work. Yeah, okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, goodbye." Right, what the run? Start throwing things around. As soon as the phone goes down, you have to run. Just like slamming the keyboard. And like, I'm out. Yeah. Like 10 o'clock, and they just storm out of the office. That client face, and then that non-client face. Like, oh, you can hang up the phone. I'm still here.
Oh yeah, I've had a few clients where if you could just reach through email and strangle them. Oh man.
That's one thing that's great about agency working right next to designers is you do form that sort of like designer brotherhood. You just know like sometimes our director will come in and she'll be like, hey, this logo is great, but can you just come up with like 3 more concepts? And you're like, yeah, sure. And they're like, yeah, okay. And it's like 3 p.m. and they're like, yeah, so like in a day. And like they'll be like, yeah. And there's like, and then you can just give each other a look.
Yeah.
You just know. FML, like.
Evan, I think you can make a really successful T-shirt out of like a designer's hands coming through the screen and choking a client. You should work on that.
I'm gonna work on an emblem or icon that's all it is, where it's like.
Actually, hold up. I will.
Just the designer there force choking.
No, I'm actually thinking about something because I have on the Xbox 360 dashboard. I have a personal gamer picture pack that I'm designing that's coming out for myself.
Yeah.
If you design that, something with like a client's like, tie being tugged, I will put that in the pack. I swear to God.
You just see it grabbing someone's neck or yanking their tie.
So that would be such a great
it just
picture.
says designer-client relationship across it.
I'm sure you guys. I was just gonna say, I'm sure you guys have all been there, but for the people listening, definitely go check out Clients from Hell if you want a good laugh as a designer. It's pretty therapeutic, so it's always good times.
There's
I think
creative directors from hell too. I mean, not the site, but I mean, I'm sure you've been in that situation where, like, I've had art directors or creative directors that they can come up with all these ideas, but they have no idea how to produce them. And it's like, how did you get to where you're at? You can't, like.
Well, I mean, we could talk about that for like an hour, but I mean, I think it's okay for some creative directors, but they have to be good. There's some, because my creative director is actually amazing, but she cannot pick up Photoshop like to save her life. But the ideas are in her head, and the fact that she can communicate, verbally and somewhat visually what she's kind of looking for, and that's what makes a good creative director. But man, I think the worst situation is when you have too many Indians, or too many chiefs, I should say.
Too many cooks or something.
I'm telling you, man, the chain of events is just crazy at the agency. Like, I mean, you've got designer, you've got your art director, then you've got your creative director, and it's just like, by the time it trickles down and goes back up, it's like you've gone through like 7 of personal preference changes.
I think it's just aerial. Yeah. It's like with a creative director, you need to have a creative director that has what the client wants and what the client will like in mind, rather than what he or she's personal preference is. Hey, I can't, no, go back and redo that before I send it to the client. Why? It's exactly what the client wants. No, but I don't like that style. They've got a real, and we battled a lot with that. It's like every design had to have rounded corners because the creative director liked rounded corners. Like, well, we can do squares.
That's something to keep in mind as a designer in general, where you got to kind of have that approach where you have your personal preferences that you like, but your client is not going to have those same preferences necessarily. So sometimes you got to remove your opinion of it, even if it's total garbage. You got to remove your opinion from it and say, this is what the client wants, and this is what I'm going to do, because you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache, honestly, because you're going to come to it and they're like, what is this?
You're like miserable designing the whole thing. You're like, this sucks, just hammering buttons and stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes you just grit your teeth and do what the client says.
Yeah, I think...
and don't put your name on it.
Oh man, there's so many things that I would be embarrassed to post just because the client direction just dive bombs it.
Yeah, there's been a few times where I've done something and they're like, oh cool, we'll put the video up and we'll put your name in the comment section. What do you want me to link to your channel or link to your Twitter? And I'm like, you know what? It's all good. Like, I mean, you've done enough already. I don't want my name associated. My Skype status is going to say offline for a little while now, right? That just I haven't blocked you. I've just I think we need to see other people.
I think we'll put the link. I think we'll put the link to Josh's amazing animation in the description of this video.
Oh my god, I watched that 300 times after I saw it. At least. I watched that and every time it got funnier and funnier and funnier and funnier. I don't know what it was. I thought it was.
Yeah, 200,000 people think the same thing apparently. So.
Well, 300 of them were me. So
I saw the comments. It's just like, this is awesome. This is still awesome. This is awesome again. It's like rated.
It was me. I just used 300 different accounts. No worries.
Yeah. No, that's all right. I mean, it all counts for ad revenue. I mean.
All right, guys, we're gonna have to wrap it up there. But I appreciate Travis taking time out to come on the show, and Josh is kind of becoming a regular part of this, so I don't feel like thanking him again. So.
That's right. I mean.
But if you guys want to check any of us out, any of the regular hosts or our guest Travis, or if you want to berate the sound guy in the comments, feel free to do so. We welcome that. But all of our links will be in the description. You can check us out on Twitter at Ctrl+Z Show, or on our new YouTube channel, which is Ctrl+Z Cast, and also the link to the Spreaker for the audio-only version will also be available for you guys to check out. So we are making ourselves available in more and more places for your guys' convenience.
Are you going to get this up on iTunes, dude?
Yeah, we're actually working on that. You're gonna have to build like a base following from the research that I did. So we're really close with our Spreaker audience to getting on iTunes and iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio too.
Yeah, we're real close to getting them both available. There he is. Any last words, guys?
I just want to say thanks for having me on, guys. Hopefully we can do it again. It was a good
It was a
time.
pleasure, dude. I'm glad you came on.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
love it.
More teal.
Yeah, more too. I'm just gonna make up colors from now on. This is Treen. It's a combination of teal and green.
I love it.
All right, guys, be sure to tune in next week, and we'll see you later.
All right, later on, fellas.
Bye.
Peace.
Jesus.